In the ancient sands of forgotten empires, whispers once filled the temple's echoes of beings called gods. They were never myths. They were never just stories in the shadowed folds of forgotten lands. The gods of old wait, they rise not from imagination, but from memory, but they were never gods in truth. They were spirits ancient, dark, real fallen watchers, disinherited rulers, masters of deception. Once they ruled nations, feasting on fear, drinking offerings poured in sorrow. They were the mighty ones, the Elohim of deception, cast down by the voice of Yahweh, driven out by the flame of truth. When the word became flesh, they were cast out, driven from nations, cultures, minds, banished by the cross. The house was swept clean, but the word foretold their return. When the unclean spirit goes out, it comes back, and it finds the house empty, swept, but unguarded. And so they came back, and now, in the silence of belief, in the absence of fire, they return clothed in new names, not as gods, but as ideologies, as movements, as awakening, as freedom unshackled from truth. They were once worshipped openly. Now they are enthroned in disguise. They do not return alone. There is a hierarchy among them. A dark imitation of the holy, he returns first. Baal, the possessor god of the threshold, he opens the gates, tears down what once stood. With prideful winds, he removes boundaries, unroots foundations, declares the ancient ways obsolete. With legal scrolls and social decrees, he reclaims the nations. Once cleansed, then comes Molech the devourer, he who demanded children in flame, who once claimed the firstborn, now claims the unborn and the newly born. With sterile tools and cold laws, the smoke of sacrifice rises again, not from altars of stone, but from clinics of silence whose hunger never ceased. It only modernized, and she returns too, the enchantress Ishtar. But now she comes as a movement, a force unmoored from nature. She cloaks herself in symbols, in colors of rebellion, and whispers, "Let us unmake the image, let us reforge identity." She calls it liberation, but it wars against design, wars against the image, wars against the divine ordered truth, becomes blasphemy, and the sacred is desecrated in the name of freedom. Together they form a counterfeit Trinity, the dark Trinity, returning to a world that opened its gates. Through abandonment of this sacred once, a nation was dedicated to the name above every name, built upon covenant, guarded by light. But light rejected becomes darkness. Deeper than night mock the sacred, tear down what was once holy, and the spirits see an opening of vacancy. And so they return, not in robes, but in ideologies. Not on chariots, but in systems, movements, and laws. They once sat in marble temples. Now they inhabit screens, systems, platforms. Their altars are algorithms. Their worship attention and affirmation. And their gospel is the gospel of self. Together they rise, not in temples, but in legislation, not in chants, but in policies, not in priests, but in influencers and voices of culture. They influence fashion and fame, language and law. Worship rebranded as entertainment, altars disguised as trends. They claim to liberate, but they enslave. They exalt self above God, desire above design power, above purity. What were once gods of myth are now gods of the algorithm, invisible rulers of the modern age. There is one among them, more cunning than the rest, Ishtar, the transformer. She comes as goddess of love, of fertility, then war, then transformation. A goddess of storms and thresholds, of veils torn and boundaries blurred. once worshipped in shadowed temples where identity was melted and remade. Not in celebration, but in surrender. Her voice is subtle, a whisper in the minds of generations, sowing the seeds of self-deification, teaching that the self is the ultimate sculptor. She dances through media, through mirrors, through doctrines that preach unrooting, undoing the sacred design. Not with rage, but with silk-wrapped rebellion, she offers liberation, yet leads into fragmentation, and those who follow may not know. They walk where ancient worshippers once trembled. There comes a moment when the return is complete, when the gods are no longer hiding, when the culture no longer resists. This is the day of the gods, when nations once dedicated to Yahweh bow once more to the spirits of old, when the sacred is outlawed and the profane is praised, when the dark Trinity ascends and the watchers whisper again from high places, it is the climax, the convergence, but it is not the end, because another day is written, a day not of gods returning, but of the King returning, and every throne, every altar, every false spirit will fall. The spirits have returned, the dark Trinity has risen. House is empty, the culture is theirs, the transformer walks among us, and the day of gods has come. But the stone that struck the image still grows into a mountain, and the light shines in the darkness, and the darkness cannot overcome it.